Alright folks, welcome back to another video of Ride and Talk. Beautiful Friday afternoon, going out for a nice ride. Hopefully it won't rain, although it's cloudy, but we'll keep our fingers crossed. I've a special topic in mind for people who like the S1000RR, and it revolves around all the hate that it's getting lately. I feel like people are kind of using it as a point or something to just generate views and kind of just badmouth the bike. And something about that just doesn't sit well with me. I saw the whole series with Moto Million with their M1000RR and their engine failure and all that. And I mean, it's unfortunate, obviously, and having to put out that much money to get your engine replaced when, in my opinion, it probably should have been a warranty repair. Even though, the break-in procedure wasn't followed, which I am a big believer in. But it should. I think it still should have been covered. In the same model of bike, where more than 2% of vehicles end up having the same failure, typically it gets recalled. Like, I'm sure everyone's heard of the coolant leak on these bikes with the thermostat, and I see that's really the only big thing that I think is consistent on them. But it's just, I think that for thought taken, should it have been, should his bike be considered a lemon? I think it should. Just because of the number of days it sat there. I don't think the dealership is treating it correctly. And to his point, like, I'm sure BMW North America or Motorrad North America is giving him a hard time, or the dealership a hard time, and therefore the dealership's giving the customer a hard time, which is unfortunate. But I just don't think that speaks to the experience that the majority of people have, Like, I don't think the S1000 is an unreliable bike. I think it's a great bike, and I think it's a great value for money for what you're getting. Would I rather have the Kawasaki ZX-NR compared to this? Like, definitely not. Especially being a taller dude, I'm 6'2". This is ergonomically one of the most comfortable bikes for me. I have just about 2,500 miles on this, and I've done a ton of modifications, the stainless steel headers, the Brentune, and it's been really reliable for me so far. But I mean, that's still like break-in miles. So maybe 10,000 miles I can have more of a valid argument here that these are reliable. But I don't intend to sell this bike, even though I'm kind of getting over the sport bike phase. But this is one I'm probably going to keep long term, and I'll keep updating and letting everyone know like what it's been like for me. Oh, that lady is really in a rush to get to that red light. Wow, she made it. Oh, look at that, an X3M. Oh wow, they have a M3 too? Look at that, Mercedes can't sell any of their own cars, so they're having to sell BMWs. Would you say that BMWs less reliable motorcycle? Yeah, you probably could. I don't know. I haven't had enough experience with it. I don't think, you know, people who say, this is a funny thing to actually talk about. People are like, you know, I've been doing this for 10 years and it's just turned out perfectly fine. So it's like people who engineer things like motorcycles and cars and things like that, you know, consider the dumb people and the dumb things that dumb people do when they're taking things or designing things. And you know, I saw this one guy on YouTube making a video about how to clean and lube your chain on an S1000. And this dude, there's the one thing that, you know, it's just not necessary to do. It may make it easier, but like, you don't start your bike and you don't run it in order to get the chain to spin so you can lubricate it. Like, just use your hand. It's a very simple solution to a potentially very dangerous problem. And I commented on there saying like, oh, you know, putting a public service announcement saying like, oh, don't do that. And the guy was like, I've been doing it for 10 years and I have all of my fingers. It's like, yeah, and there are 100 other people out there who've been doing it and don't have their fingers. It's just ridiculous to me that that argument is something that people leverage. It's like, tell me that you have 100,000 data points, and then we'll, you know, then I'll value your opinion on something. Anyway, got a little sidetracked, but I get pretty heated up about that. It just that whenever anyone says I've been doing it for X number of years, or, you know, I've used, you know, a higher viscosity oil in my engine for the last 100,000 miles, it's like, yeah, and other people have just used the standard recommended oil and their engines are going as well. In fact, there are more data points of people's engines going with the regular oil than with the secret that you unlocked that the engineers designing the motorcycle or car couldn't figure out. It's like, I would like to see them, like those people, learn engineering and design an engine. Like, that engine would not even last, you know, a few miles. So for those people who are incapable of designing an engine that can last hundreds of thousands of miles, let's let the people who made it tell us how to maintain it. Now, you could argue that that manufacturers are, you know, doing things to consider them, they're making a definition for what is lifetime, right? Which, you know, you could say like, oh, there's a lifetime is considered like 200,000 miles or something, and if you want to do the 500,000 miles, then, you know, you gotta change the oil every 50-60,000 miles, the transmission oil, for example. And that might be true, but just because one thing is going in the favor of like people who make this types of arguments doesn't mean that every other thing that they have concocted in their mind is correct. So I don't know. I usually lose whenever someone says, like I said, whenever someone says I've been doing it for X number of years, that's when I'm like, alright, this person's opinion means nothing to me. I gotta say, I've been having quite the nice ride today. I had an officer wave hi to me, I had a girl in the Starbucks earlier wave hi to me. It's a Friday. People are just in a good mood. Am I gonna rev it? Hell yeah, I am. So going back to my original topic, no, I would not ever recommend to someone to just avoid it. Stay away from it. Don't get it. That is one data point in, well, I have no idea. So I'm going to say more than 100,000. There are at least 100,000 examples out there of people riding S1000s. And what percentage of them do you think actually failed? So, I don't know. I guess to each their own. Not everyone's good at interpreting data. I think, I've kind of learned that through my career too. That data interpretation is, it's very fascinating actually. Like, we do a lot of measurements of or just KPIs we're taking a look at that to interpret how, if you're manufacturing something or if you're looking at anything with the supply chain, those measurements exist there, and how people, and how you can give two different people the exact same data set, and the interpretation of it will be, or could be, completely different. People will notice and pick out certain things based on their experiences and their biases, and could come to a completely different conclusion or the same conclusion using completely different routes. So, point is that for the majority of people, if you buy a S1000, you'll probably be fine, statistically speaking. And if you do have a problem, shit happens. So, I don't know, I think, that could happen with any manufacturer or with any motorcycle brand. Every brand has a certain percentage of failures. When you're a company and you're making a decision of okay, how do I'm designing something. Let's say the engineers are designing something. I don't have an engineering background, but I can kind of think about how this would probably go down. But let's say you're a company that makes motorcycles or cars or whatever, and as you are designing something, you have to select the engine mount. Let's just use that as an example. And you have a choice between the limitations within technology that exist. You can make certain decisions okay, right now the technology that exists, you can either have a rubber compound that will be, sorry about that, that will be, that will provide more longevity in terms of reliability and the number of miles you get out of it, or you have to select a compound that is stiffer, maybe has a shorter life, has a different feel to it. So you're making that decision okay, this is what my company values. Let's say as a brand like BMW, let's say sportiness, whether it's cars or motorcycles. So when they're manufacturing something, they're going to choose maybe a compromise between longevity and sportiness or performance, probably a little bit more geared towards performance. Now your Toyota, that's an easy decision, right? You're okay, I'm gonna pick what gives me the longest service life, and that's just the way the world works. Now in today's world, I think we're getting much more improved technology out there that kind of allows you to have the best of both worlds. And some cases people will argue that it's actually made things worse. That I don't want a sport button that says that puts the car's suspension in a more aggressive mode, but it's not really that aggressive. And then when I put it in comfort mode, it's not really that comfortable. It's leaning too much towards one way or something like that, and it's just not tuned properly. I think it's getting better and better. Honestly, I'm at that point now where I actually prefer it, but you're just limited within the bounds of the current availability of technology out there, or you create something new or revolutionize it. For me, so far. It's been great. And I've enjoyed the bike. I absolutely love it. I think there are plenty of examples online of people who have had it and not had an issue. Honestly, probably more of those than there are the negative ones. So, like I said, your bike's dream bike's been S1000. Don't let a YouTuber tell you not to get it. Alright. Peace out, everyone. Later.